So I'll probably talk, it's probably only going to be about 20 minutes. It'll be very manageable and there'll be plenty of time at the end for questions. So perhaps hang on to your questions for the end. They might get answered along the way, but if not, there should be plenty of space. Can everyone hear me okay? Can I get a thumbs up? Yep, all right. So I'm going to talk about a few themes in terms of order life. I'm going to pick out entering the order and my name, a bit about service, daily life, connections, and depth of practice. I've got a couple of very ad hoc poems along the way and a few stories. So entering the order. I kind of like the term entering rather than joining. Joining feels a bit like I've kind of subscribed to a local library or something, but somehow entering feels kind of dynamic in the way that I've experienced it. So I was ordained about 6 years ago with 7 other women from New Zealand and Australia. It was on a 1-month retreat in New Zealand. It was on the very top of the South Island in New Zealand. And from Melbourne, I had Prasada Jata and Dira Charita. I can see Dira Charita here tonight. Not sure about Prasada Jata. She might be on the other screen, but no, maybe not. Anyway, so there were 3 of us from Melbourne. It was a magical and inspiring time. I remember feeling very close to the Buddha. I often feel in sort of positive connection with the Buddha, but during that time and that retreat, I felt the Buddha with me quite strongly. And I felt that I was sort of joining the lineage of the Buddha, not just joining the order. I had this idea that I wanted to leave in better health than I arrived. I hadn't had a great kind of 6 months leading up to that point. I was quite run down. I'd been working a lot and just sort of worn out, had a lot of stomach upsets and just general kind of minor health things. But I took a couple of months off work and thought, right, I don't want to crawl to my ordination retreat. I want to go in a reasonable state. And then I had this idea that when I'm there, I want to leave in better nick than I rock up. So that was sort of a side project. So while I was there, I had loads of walks and just really enjoyed being out in the fresh air. I'd go for jogs along the beach and swims. It was very cold. I think we can attest to it being very cold. Got one little poem about my name there, and then I'll say a bit about my name. So who am I? I am a dashhound that thinks it's a Labrador. I am ocean pebbles tumbling and clinking with passing waves. I am a baby seal, long weary of lost innocence, bobbing in the cool seas. I am as strong as an axe wielded at dawn to pass through mountain logs like butter. I am as weak as a pelican with a shattered wing. I am as beautiful as the sunrise. I am as tainted as the city air. I am one who longs to be close to you, then pulls away when you draw near. I am contractions and habits, merit and demerit, wonder and potential. I am Rijumayi. That was a sort of little thing I put together thinking about my brand new name at the time. Do I have powers to share screen, Sangapurna?
Yes, hello.
I do.
We can give you the. Oh, you can. Good. Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right. So I've just popped up a quick photo from that time on my ordination retreat. So beside me is my private preceptor, Dharmanandi. So she grew up in England but migrated to New Zealand as a sort of young adult. and she was a wonderful woman who chose my name and my sadhana practice of green Tara and kind of welcomed me privately into the order. And then Rao Devi was my public preceptor. So my name, Rijumayi, I think of it, I mean, we sometimes talk about it as that the names are aspirational and that they talk about some sort of potential that's recognised within us. And I agree with both those things. I also feel like it's that she picked out something that I deeply value. So there's not, many things that we feel that we die for, that we just sort of feel, are so important to us. And I'd have to say she sort of hit the nail there. So filled with integrity is what Rijumayi means, filled with integrity, and it's something to steadily grow into, plenty of room to grow into. To me, it's one of the things about it is that doing the right thing doesn't always come with its own reward. Or we might have to say that sometimes doing the right thing has to be its own reward. Acting with integrity can be challenging. Sometimes it means going against the grain with friends, family, work colleagues, or just expectations that we experience in the community. Sometimes the tangible outcome is the same, but the approach, the way that we relate to others is what changes. And I'll just give you a really basic story that hopefully illustrates this point. So let's say you're at the supermarket. Now at the moment, everyone's encouraged to pay by card. I mean, everyone loves card. They sort of frown at you if you have actual money, but let's pretend you're at the supermarket. You pay and you're due to get a $5 change, but instead you get $20. So here, at that point, there's options. Do you think, oh, well, it's their mistake, it's my gain, let's hope they don't notice, never mind. And then a few seconds later, the cashier realises, they apologise and they give you the correct change. Or you could hand the note back, you kind of roll your eyes and have a bit of tone in your voice and, say, I don't think so, and get it sorted, Or another option might be that you just graciously point out that, it's too much change and you relate to the cashier as a human being and you sort out the error. In those three basic scenarios, you walk away with the same amount of money in your pocket. So what's different is your thoughts and your actions and the way that you've communicated with that other person. So to me, that's just a really simple story of kind of the everyday choices we make and sort of underpinning integrity that we can choose to act with. So next I'll say a bit about service. Service can be a bit uncool, but I quite like the term service. I mean, in a very basic way, ethics, meditation and wisdom, I've gained so much from my practice and I feel an urge to share that with others. Sometimes that's overtly in helping to take classes or courses, study group and things. And other times it's just sharing my inspiration. I can talk about getting up in the mornings and meditating, about learning to gradually become more generous or kinder. I can share my faults and my vulnerabilities and just my desire to really grow, because ultimately that's what we all want to do. We're all flawed, but we're all wanting to grow. I remember the first retreat that I led up in Sydney, and many of you have probably been to Vijayaloka, where we have our retreats. I was set up in the shrine room up the front of the room, and I looked, and there was this spotlight, I don't know, so some of you have probably been out the front and seen how bright it is. And I looked and I thought, Rijumayi, you are literally in the spotlight here. And in that moment I thought, oh, well, it doesn't need to be me, but sure, it might as well be me. Someone's going to ring the bells, so I don't have to kind of hook into that and overly identify with it. But in a way, there's no reason why it couldn't be me. I'm not particularly charming and bubbly, but I have things that I can offer. I can be fairly clear. I'm a good organiser, although I will add, I prefer not to promote that too much because I probably have enough admin on my plate. I'm fairly steadfast and I love the Dharma. Sometimes we can just share what we love and that's enough. I don't say yes to everything, but for me, part of the attitude of service is that it's not about me and things won't always be convenient or what I feel like. Sometimes I come up with an idea and I'll run with that. Other times I'll respond to a request that comes in or a particular need that is sort of identified. In any team, in any organisation, there's a bunch of stuff that just needs doing. Sometimes there are jobs that are less popular. Occasionally I might be the best person for a task or just the one that's available at the right time. So daily life. I typically get up at about 5:30, have a cuppa, meditate for about an hour, and then usually exercise. So at the moment, like a lot of people, I'm working from home. So I design online learning courses, mostly for migrants and refugees, but also other things. We're sort of, we do kind of career development stuff, you know, how to write a resume and that kind of thing. English courses, but also literacy and numeracy more broadly. Once a fortnight, I have chapter where I get together with other order members. We can talk about our practice and connect. Every 2 weeks, I also facilitate a under 30s study group with Jonathan supporting that. I'm on the management committee. And another thing that I really enjoy is once a month, I have a phone call with Dharmanandi, the woman in the photo, my private preceptor. She's in Auckland, so a couple of hours difference, but we talk on the phone and we work our way through a Dharma book. So at the moment, we're studying Who is the Buddha? Sunday afternoons, I usually have another meditation. At the moment, we've got an order worldwide Zoom. If I can't make it to that for whatever reason, often I'll just do a recording of a practice that I have. With the current restrictions in Melbourne at the moment, my weekdays are still fairly full with work and other responsibilities, but my weekends are pretty cruisy. Meditation, reading, sometimes DVDs, walks, games, talking to friends on the phone, a little bit of sewing and cooking. So there is a certain spaciousness and simplicity in lockdown that part of me enjoys. Although this weekend we have a virtual retreat, an under 35s weekend on generosity and abundance. So it's a last ditch pitch. If anyone is under 35 or knows someone who might be interested who's under 35, still taking bookings. For me, things like meditation and other parts of direct practice like study are really important. And you know, I do want to continue to do those things. But also I kind of remind myself regularly that if I add up all those hours in the week, there's still about half the number of hours that I'm in paid work. So those paid work hours do really count. the sort of environment that I'm in, the people that I'm with, how I behave, really, well, they have an effect on me, and has an effect on them, but also that impacts the hours that I am on the cushion, or that I am reflecting on the Dharma and trying to practice. Because if I'm really trying to be still and concentrated and at peace, and then I'm getting cranky with people at work, then it's not going to be working for anyone. So I do really try and take my practice with me wherever I am, which with back-to-back Zoom meetings at the moment is an interesting challenge. But people love it when I often just say, "Oh, look, can we just have a 5-minute break before the next?" And everyone's like, "Oh, yes, Rijumayi, let's do that." So I'm the tea break queen. So a bit about connections. I mean, people connect in different ways, and some people, love talking on the phone or meeting up, or have particular interests and ways to get together. One of the things I really like with my order friends is working on projects. I think it's a great way to get to know each other. It's challenging, and you can really encourage one another. I facilitated a intermediate meditation course a few months ago with Shred and I can spot a couple of people who are on that. And we're also in a chapter together, and we have a few walks. And for me, this is just like the perfect combo, having a project and being in chapter, have that sort of regular connection, and a shared sort of pursuit, I suppose. But there's been plenty of people along the way, both in my training for ordination and in my time since then, who've been, really important. We had from Maitri before. Chidamapa is my other Kalyana Mitra, who's up in Sydney. I don't see her often, but when I do, it's just a really positive connection, and I just really enjoy being with her. Danta Chitta is a sort of key person. When we both first started going along about a bit over 20 years ago, we were just these two quiet little mice, and we both sort of come out of our shells and step to the forefront in whatever way. Through my training for ordination and kind of entering the order, I was working a lot with Shane on the Young Buddhist project, and we just had a fantastic time. Like we just kind of grew together and grew in the project through that effort. A lot of laughs, probably made a lot of mistakes, but learned a lot, and I think benefited and others benefited. I now have friends kind of scattered around the world too. I've been on kind of retreats with or lived with. Others I've just met a few times but feel some sort of real bond. And sometimes just knowing someone is enough to make my life feel richer. The depth of practice. Some of my strongest meditation experiences have been when I've had some sort of simple experience that helped me to kind of integrate. So one time that comes to mind is we did this sleep out for homelessness. It was at our last Buddhist centre, and this is the first one we did probably, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. And the next morning, meditating when we got up, I just had this expansive, strong sense of interconnection and equanimity. It was the strongest feeling of freedom I'd had. Another one that recollect is I was on an order retreat. I felt distracted. Like my heart was not in meditation. I'd kind of drag myself along and keep doing it. but it just wasn't coming off. And then, of all things, Victoria City asked me to play basketball. So I went off and I played basketball, and the moving and laughing and connecting, somehow I just gathered up all the disparate bits of me on that basketball court and took all of me into the shrine room. And suddenly the whole lot of me was moving in line with my vision. The whole lot of me sort of subscribed to pursuit of enlightenment rather than, oh, wonder what's for dinner and, this isn't right and, my foot's sore. Suddenly it's just all gathered. So, often those simple experiences help me to have the kind of integration to carry me forward. Willing it doesn't make it so. A few years ago, I spent 3 months on an order course in the countryside of England. Some of you will have visited or heard about our Triratna property called Adistana. It was just an incredible time. It was in an intense schedule. We had several week-long order retreats, workshops. We were listening to talks and giving talks, working to support the running of the place in the daytime. I made some great friendships during that time and sort of lifelong connection to the place. Some of you know Lokeshra, our president. So he's one of the order conveners, but he's also the president of the Melbourne Buddhist Centre. So some of you will have had, seen him when he's visited, and that's where he's based. Another thing I learnt along the way, and particularly at that time, is the importance of pauses and kind of space to absorb things. Before I went to Adistana, I was away for about 4.5 months altogether. And when I was booking my tickets, my partner was saying, I think, because I was going to come back a couple of days later, he said, oh no, I think you need a couple of weeks at the end to, to sort of absorb it all. And I was like, trying to get rid of me. Said, at one point he was saying, oh, maybe you should get an open ticket in case you want to, stay even longer. I said, oh, okay. But I tell you what, it worked. Like I had 2 weeks at the end staying in hostels, mostly just walking around. It was winter time, so I'd just leave the hostel and walk for most of the day, sit and drink a cup of tea or coffee very slowly and write in my notebook. And just the quiet and the space, I somehow assimilated all the weeks and weeks of content. There was so much input, I just could somehow digest it and walk among the Christmas lights and just be alone in the quiet. So that was a fantastic trip. And I'm just going to read a strange little poem from an order convention on that same trip, which was a few years ago. So last month would have been another time where the order got together internationally in England. But obviously with COVID it was cancelled. We did some things online, but I attended the previous one. So I'm just going to share that little poem. It's a web of secret agents. I look upon the glowing shrine with a mixture of boredom and wonder. Stifling a yawn, I stretch out my legs and let more air into my lungs. The cloaking warmth of so many candles and hundreds of people. What a feverish and foreign place. A basketball stadium transformed into a blue haven. But maybe I just want to play basketball. Strangers in a neat landscape. pleasantries I'm not sure I want. Closing my eyes, I feel the mantra echo around. Turning inwards, confidence arises. Peace, home. The aisles teem with people, small and tall, young and old. Cool guys I pass in the street and dare a second glance. No capes or badges, but all holding a certain magic. From neighbours to those far away, all passions and persuasions, a web of people, taking the Dharma out into the world. Secret agents in troubled times. Walking out into the moonlit sky, I feel the joy of the order and sleep soundly amid the purr. It was 2016 convention. So my name, to practice it fully, can take me all the way to enlightenment. I have the practices, the teachings, the support, everything I need to achieve anything, which is an amazing gift and an amazing adventure. That's all I have to share.